if you could see me now.
Why? What's the matter? What are you doing?
I'm sat in the back of my van with a hastily constructed sound booth in a car park near Rochford.
Your obsession with Jack Ryan has gone to a new level.
Who? Sorry,
Jack
say that
Ryan.
again. Try that again. No, try again.
Why? You're not obsessed with Jack Ryan?
No,
Oh,
no.
you're
I
obsessed
think
with
I
Buffalo
think you
Bill?
mean I think you mean someone different. You got the wrong Jack.
Jack Reacher?
No,
Jack the Ripper?
maybe you meant Jack Ryan. Actually, I mean I did read Tom Clancy as a kid, so it's possible. Yeah.
There we go. So we got there in the end.
Still not the right Jack though. We're still looking for a famous Jack who's sort of like Jack Ryan, but not Jack Ryan.
Who is it then? What Jack are we talking about?
Jack Bauer.
Jack Bauer. Oh, okay. Yeah, but he doesn't stake out in vans. If you was being Jack
Oh,
Bauer,
you kidding me?
You'd be kicking in the front door and you'd be
Wow.
tying them up to the dinner table and electrocuting them with the wire from a lamp. That's what you'd be doing.
Fair days, fair days.
That's-
Well, no, so I'm more like I'm trying to think of.
I still maintain you're more like Jack the Ripper out of all of those. Welcome to episode 14 of Keeping on Track. I'm Bradley Williams,
And I'm Adam Heath.
coming to you live from the back of a van.
It's new broadband day. I've got no broadband. I didn't really realise it was going to be off because I don't know if you've gone through this process yet, but we're all going to get fibre optic to the property. Is that what they call it? FTTP, rather than to the cabinet. But that means the broadband's now down. And so I've frantically searched for a solution. I'm now sat in the back of the van in a car park in a makeshift studio. I'm happy.
There you
Yeah,
go.
because the copper lines, the copper wires were never built to carry internet. So they just adjusted them to suit the purpose. But everybody needs fibre to the property for a purpose-built line. That's my Sky knowledge coming through.
You can take the girl away from Sky, but you can't take the Sky away from the girl.
Wealth of internet knowledge. There you go. This is as far as it goes, to be honest.
Well, Brad, going against convention, shall we introduce Morgan? Because she's brought herself straight into the conversation. Let's not pretend that she's not here with us.
Let's
Let's just introduce her. Let's just go.
Every time's different. So, yes, fantastic. Okay, so let's introduce you. So, we have with us today Morgan Byrne. She is a principal consultant at On Track International and our resident occupational psychologist, which sounds very interesting. And we'd like to get into that a little bit more today. I have Hannibal Lecter vibes in my head. I know that's a psychiatrist, not a psychologist. But, I mean, Morgan, you've never eaten a human being, have you?
No, not that I can remember. No, but yeah, there's a slight difference, just a slight difference to that. One's about human behaviour, one's about something completely different. But there you
Completely
go.
different. And you're not, let's just clarify this, you're not a licensed medical professional. You cannot give anybody
No.
prescriptions for any sort of medications.
No.
We go. So,
Brad, I don't know if Morgan's introduction meant she didn't want to listen to us talk nonsense for 5 minutes like we normally do.
well, I
But
did advise her on that.
we should because I feel like if we go into the deep end, we won't get to hear about WrestleMania, for example. I want to hear about that from you. I want to talk about speed briefly. Just a couple of bits of housekeeping. Should we do that first before we get too deep into occupational? What was it? Occupational
Psychology.
psychologist. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Well, Morgan, you're more than welcome to chime in on any of this, by the way. So, that feel
Especially
free.
the WrestleMania bit. Yeah.
Especially the WrestleMania.
Don't know if I've got any
Have
input
it.
on WrestleMania, to be honest. Other than that, one of the wrestlers was in Magic Mike, and that's how I know. But that's it.
Kevin Nash. There you go. So it was WrestleMania weekend, and true to form, as a grown man with nothing better to do on a Saturday and Sunday than stay up till 4:30 in the morning, I stayed up and watched WrestleMania this year, which was his 40th.
Both nights. Let's just
Both
make sure we make
nights.
it both nights, Saturday and Sunday, 2 nights of it.
Saturday and Sunday, 4.5 hours each night, and it was 40th anniversary, which coincides with the same year as my 40th birthday. So I thought it was quite fun. That little serendipitous moment, but yeah, it was good fun. It was good fun. It wasn't as big and as grandiose as I thought it was going to be, but it was full of some great little storylines and some fun little moments. Just those little things you expect from wrestling, though, over the top, dramatic, operatic, powerful little punches of excitement, and then you go to the plateau of watching people take 10 to 15 minutes to get to the ring in between.
Mm.
So,
Do you know what? Right, I give you a lot of grief for watching wrestling. I like, I occasionally catch it on TV and get quite nostalgic. Oh,
yeah,
when I was a kid, I loved it. Into my teens, don't really know how I fell out of watching it, but there is a storytelling aspect, right? We could quite easily make the case
oh,
for it's just a
yeah,
different form of storytelling, for sure.
mm,
But I tell you what dawned on me is just like, I guess a lot of things in our media world and lives, just how bloated it's become. I can't believe that is now 2 nights. It used to be 1 night. I can't believe it's 4 hours per night. That's it used to be like a 2 or 3 hour thing. That's it. The whole package. That's just bloated so much, hasn't it? Doesn't it feel bloated?
it does. I think it is a few things. So obviously, I said to you I said to you over the weekend, and obviously clarified this morning. One of the things about wrestling, especially in the conventional sense of professional wrestling, it's always been known as sports entertainment, and that was because they wanted to be able to stipulate themselves as something different than a sport. They then allowed them to do certain things and act more like a TV show or an entertainment business rather than a sports team. They're now steering away from that and going towards the professional wrestling element, which is now pushing it to more towards a sport. But the reason I share that is because I think the closest thing that wrestling has ever had is somewhere between boxing and American football. Now, both of those things, if you watch a boxing event, the match might only last 10 seconds, it might last 15 rounds, but you're looking at least 3 or 4 hours for a boxing event. And then an NFL game is at least 3 hours. So I think conventionally those types of sports are used to running, whereas football, for example, football's 90 minutes, give or take. So I think from that perspective, if you look at it in terms of its connection to those things, it makes sense. But if you look at it in terms of like a movie or a TV show or another sport, it just doesn't make sense at all. It's crazy. But it is bloated and it does go on for far too long. But then if that means you get to go to those places that you wouldn't go to, it's like with any creative process, you exhaust the obvious and then you get to the unknown. And it's sometimes in those unknown things where like, we know what we've got half an hour to kill. Let's put 2 matches on and we can do whatever we want those matches. Those matches are often the more memorable ones because they're not just following the routines and doing what they need to do. So I agree with you. It is bloated, but it does lead to these sometimes little gems, these little moments. You go, oh, that was quite fun, actually. I'm glad that they did that. So, yeah.
There's a strange connection, right? Because I have done my homework for you since last episode,
Okay.
and I've watched the movie Speed. I thought, go on, I'll watch a movie. Let's watch one. And I know, and I probably watch more TV. Well, I definitely watch more TV series than movies. Still not a lot, but definitely more TV. And it just really dawned on me. I mean, I'm sure it's not this movie or unique to this movie, but I really felt that pace difference. I'm like, wow, this is a totally different form of storytelling. The whole pacing of that movie compared to a 10 episode, 10 hour stretched out story. This is a properly tight, compressed little episode. And it just felt so different. It just really brought that to life for me again. The kind of love of movies. Wow, I love that 90-minute, 120-minute kind of self-contained story. Without the baggage of needing to stretch itself out over 10 episodes or having to necessarily have a sequel. I know all studios want a sequel, but it can just exist on its own. Which is funny because the opposite end of the spectrum is kind of what you've just done with WrestleMania. To my mind, really stretching that storytelling out and maybe testing the patience of some people to want to be that invested.
Yeah, and I think the other thing as well is the connection between those two things is you have certain filmmakers like say David Fincher, Stanley Kubrick when he was alive. They're known for doing a load of takes, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 takes to get their actors to a point of doing something unique. That then feeds into a 90-minute, 120-minute movie. So you're getting the long form storytelling. You're taking the best parts of those long forms, putting that into a condensed thing. And as I say, with wrestling, the issue they've got there is they've got so many wrestlers and they've got so many matches going on, and so many matches can be quite similar, but everyone has to get their time on. So in a weird way, it would be better if you could have uncut WrestleMania and then the TV edit. So the TV edit is we've cut all the rubbish matches, we've cut all the boring bits, and we've given you the best of the best of the best. And that would be a really tight, exciting 90 minutes. So you could probably do something like that. But then obviously you have the overarching stories they're trying to tell and all that. But I think the biggest takeaway from this conversation is that you went and watched Speed. Which,
I did.
Which is unreal. I mean, honestly,
Loved
Morgan
it.
never does this. He never does this. So he must have really had his heart touched by Keanu Reeves to go away and do that, I think. And what was your general feeling, Adam? Like, obviously, you sounded like you enjoyed it.
Yeah, loved it. Thought it was great.
Yeah.
Why you laugh? You want more than that? It did a few things that I'm sure you'll say are everywhere, but I don't see them that often. For example, starting as quickly as it does right into the action, that felt different, felt unusual. Reminded me of James Bond opening, just something really kind of action packed, really straight out of the gate before you've even found your breath. I loved it. It's got. I asked you last week if it was a sort of Tony Scott-ish, and I think it is. It feels to me like it could have been a Denzel Washington film. I love that kind of stuff. What's the train film called? The runaway train. Unstoppable? Is it Unstoppable?
Yeah, it is Unstoppable.
That kind of stuff. I don't know why it just works for me. So I enjoyed myself. I thought Speed was a really fun little movie.
See, look at that. We're finding a niche for you, I think.
Hey, can I do one other totally random thing that's on my list?
Yeah, go on.
I just wrote down Dermot O'Leary and thought, I hope I remember why I wrote down Dermot O'Leary. Not a fan? You don't like him?
I mean,
like
I'm indifferent to Dermot O'Leary. Go on, what have you got about him?
Well, this might well be cut from the podcast because it's just something for us to talk about and no one else would be interested. But I recently on TalkSport, as I listen to TalkSport a lot, as you know, and I'm sure on other stations as well, there's a series of National Lottery radio ads.
Right.
You got to be in it to win it kind of thing. I can't think of the tagline. But there's at least 2 or 3 different adverts they did that I've heard so many times. And Dermot O'Leary's in there, and there's 2 people talking about dancing, and someone asked Dermot, "Can you still dance?" And he says, "Oh, I call me Dermot O'Limbo or something. Do the limbo."
Right.
I don't even think about it anymore. I just hear it occasionally for months. I mean, 3, 4, 5 months maybe. It feels like just been chugging along, hearing it every now and then. But recently, I heard the advert again without Dermot O'Leary, just completely replaced by a non-recognizable actor. And the first time it happened, I just confused myself. I thought, is this the same advert? Is that lottery advert? And it just dawned on me that I imagine what's happened. I don't know if it's by design or I don't know if it was a strategic thing on their part. I feel like that license has expired. They've done a deal with Dermot O'Leary. They've done a 3-month contract or whatever to play that. I can't think of the term, like a release to use your voice on that advert for 3 months. That's run out, and they've just substituted in. It's exactly the same advert. All the other kind of characters in it, the music, everything's identical. The pacing, the dialogue, just with someone else doing Dermot's bit. And I just thought that was really interesting. Cynically, I wondered if the thought is we've got our money's worth. Dermot O'Leary's been associated, and that has happened, right? To me, I'm hearing this new advert. I think Dermot O'Leary, even though he's not in the advert, I still think it because he was in it for so long. I just thought it was an interesting choice on their part to reuse, not make a new advert, reuse the exact same advert and substitute his voice after whatever it is, 3 or 4 months of that being in circulation.
I never get this. Right? I never understand who the audience are for some of these things. It's the same as when you see those adverts for like Well Man and Well Woman. And you just have some random person that's connected to it, and I just think, who's the audience for that? Because I get when you have a name or a celebrity attached to something, you're doing it to either you're trying to evoke the stature of this person in terms of, oh, this person's really famous, or this person's attached to this particular movement or lifestyle, so we want to do that sort of thing. But it's just random, is it not?
Yeah, it is. But it's worked, right? There's a jingle. I know you're going to go and Google it after this and watch the advert, or listen to the advert, I should say. There's a little bit of music, and Dermot O'Leary and the Lottery are probably forever ingrained in my brain now as a little set. Those three things: that music, him, and the National Lottery. So I feel like it did what it needed to do, and now they can play me a different guy talking, and I still think of the National Lottery, Dermot O'Leary, just by that one little note of whatever the instrument is. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting.
Not my Dermot.
Right, I can cross him off my list now. Dermot O'Leary's been on my list for about 3 weeks, and my list gets added to every day, and I have to re-add the things that I didn't get to yesterday. So he's been on there for some time. He's gone now. See ya.
There you go. So then, actually, although we don't have a conspiracy theory of the week this week, but maybe if I play the jingle now, and then I say to you, Adam, so what's our conspiracy theory of the week? So we'll just say, where is Dermot O'Leary?
Well, yeah, because he's not in the National Lottery ad, so where is he? What's happened to him? SOS.
Do you know where Dermot is? That is our conspiracy of the week. Anyway, let's move on. So, Morgan, we have introduced you already, and you've sat there patiently. Let's get your thoughts. Do you have any thoughts on WrestleMania or Speed or Dermot O'Leary or anything along those lines?
Other than I guess the conspiracy of like, is wrestling real? Like, I don't know. And that's the only thing that I've got to add. No, if it's real or not.
Is wrestling real? Is Dermot O'Leary real? Is this existence real?
Yeah, that's about what I've got for you for that.
But in case we missed it, you had some. It's a very interesting and useful information about fiber optic broadband. That was quite.
Oh yeah, I do. And it was built like before the World War or something. But basically, copper lines were never meant to carry internet, so that's why they're so rubbish. And there are only two carriers, so there's only BT and there's only Virgin. Everybody else just piggybacks off those. So Sky is BT. Virgin is Virgin, and every other broadband supplier is one or the other. So there is no other infrastructures in place. So it's really funny when you complain about your supplier, provider, whatever, you're only complaining to two people, really, two companies. They call trade secrets being spilled.
Wow. Yeah. There's your conspiracy. There's only BT, Open Reach, is that what it's called, and Virgin?
Yeah,
that's
BT, Open Reach and Virgin, that's it. Those are the only two big players that have enough money to make the infrastructures. So everyone else just piggybacks off those and pays them a fee to use their lines, whether it be fiber optic or copper. But they're decommissioning all of the copper lines by 2025, or that's their aim.
Do you know what's really interesting to me actually is and you're right, Morgan, we all complain about our internet, and you said yourself it can be crap copper. But yeah. I'm hearing what you've said. It wasn't designed for this. Boy, have we done a lot with it then, because it is like, it is fast. We can do stuff. It has changed our world already, and it was never meant to do that. And my brain's just exploded at, well, what happens when we get like something that was properly designed for this?
It's designed for it. Yeah. No, really, it is interesting in there. I guess as well, the complaints around internet usually come from, they think it's the line that's, from the exchange and things like that. It's usually Wi-Fi. It's usually there's something. The amount of things that impact Wi-Fi is just insane, like glass, water, your hub being on the floor. So we would take pictures of like your surroundings, and I would get people when I worked there to assess what it was that was going to impact it. And the impact that it has is huge, but people will always just default to it must be a problem on the line. But it's not usually, it's their Wi-Fi. And Wi-Fi doesn't actually stand for anything. And people have just made up that it's wireless fidelity, but it's not. It never stood for anything. Although my gran calls it Wi-Fi. Still, bless her.
So we thought we was getting Morgan in here to talk about all sorts of things relating to learning and development, but this has just descended.
I've got a lot of internet think I'm a lot of knowledge, to be honest. Don't know if
Trivia.
it's secrets or not, but I do.
You've
I will fix you.
perpetuated a new world order conspiracy and then launched into a load of fun facts about Wi-Fi and broadband. There we go.
Isn't it fascinating though? Because I feel that really shows Morgan's like analytical mind, her ability to kind of look at and deconstruct the problem. Like literally, like she's taking photos of people's houses to try and puzzle out what's causing the internet problem. I don't know, there just seems to be a connection there to me, to the work she does now, that kind of ability to zoom out a little bit and look at the bigger picture.
Nice. Could you tell us what topic are we talking about today?
So we're talking about resilience today.
Just for the purposes of those listening to the podcast, there's a reason we're talking about resilience, because you are something of an expert in this area. So there's going to be a lot of interesting ground to be covered here. But also, it wouldn't be the podcast without the next part. So what movie are we talking about in connection to resilience?
So, and this is, I mean, you might think it's a strange choice because Labyrinth did come out 10 years before I actually was born. So you might think, Morgan, why have you picked Labyrinth as your favourite film or a connection to resilience? But it is just something that I have such memory of. And yeah, it's magical. I absolutely love The Labyrinth. So that's the film that we're talking about.
Let me do a quick overview then of Labyrinth. So the famous Jim Henson movie from 1986 tells the story of Sarah Williams, no relation, who goes on a journey into a fantastical underworld after her baby brother Toby is kidnapped by the wicked goblin king Jareth. Once she has, in a fit of anger, wished that her brother would just be taken away. So she finds herself taken into this labyrinth on the hunt for her brother, and she has a ticking clock counting down the time. If she can't reach the center of the labyrinth before the time runs out, her brother will belong to Jareth the Goblin King. And it is absolutely bonkers, and I love it. I will just say, I genuinely am excited that we are talking about Labyrinth. I love this movie ever since I was a kid. First crush, Jennifer Connelly. First crush, David Bowie. First crush, Muppets. I now have a best friend who's one. Sorry, Adam.
Am I your best friend? Did that just happen on the podcast live?
We've got admitted, official, guys. It's official. But yeah, I absolutely love this film. Absolutely love this film. So thank you for picking this, Morgan. Adam, you never seen Labyrinth?
I've never seen Labyrinth, I'm afraid.
But you do love Jim Henson.
I love Jim Henson. Love Bowie for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously conscious of it. It's one of those movies you can't escape. But I don't even think I've seen some movies. You catch 10 minutes on TV at some point, or you get a set. I don't even think I've done that. I've seen pictures, but I know nothing about it.
Well, I think this may convert you. It's credited as being written by Terry Jones. Now, I know he co-wrote the film with Jim Henson in different iterations, and I know that he's kind of distanced himself from the end product, but there is a lot of Terry Jones in this movie, so that might win you over as well.
They should just make movie posters like that for me. Just, as long as you reference the right people, there's a chance I'll engage and check in. That's really your role, actually, is you can just come to me and say, hey, ignore the trailer, ignore the poster. Did you know, FYI, one of the Pythons was involved in this capacity? Done. We're in. Hey, I've not seen it, so I don't know why, but I assume it's a strange choice for resilience, this movie. I can't immediately see the connection. What's the thinking?
I think, the title of The Labyrinth, and I know when I was younger, I didn't actually know what that meant. My gran just said, Morgan, it's like a maze. I'm like, right, okay, that's fine. I do now know what a labyrinth is. But I think getting through that, you don't know the route that you're going to take, but you have to deal with things as they come. And that's what resilience is. It's being able to deal with challenges, bumps in the road, setbacks as they're placed in front of you, and you may not know what the end goal is, but still being able to overcome and face those, thriving in the face of adversity, in maybe not completely understanding that end goal, but knowing you're going to be able to face what comes next, but not knowing what that could be. And that's what resilience is that it's sometimes quite difficult to, I suppose, train the skills that are needed because I can't forecast what those challenges are for each and every individual, for each business, but I can dip into the types of skills. So problem solving, decision making, positive outlook, all of those things can be worked on at any time. You know, there are things that I face daily, which other people might find really tricky and might have to spend a lot of time on. And, you know, vice versa. I might think, wow, I really couldn't do that. Or I really would struggle with kind of regulating emotion around that type of situation where, you know, other people would be okay because of the experience attached to it and because of the other things that go alongside it. So there you go. That's the connection to Labyrinth, and also a few misconceptions tangled in there as well.
Obviously, there are a number of opportunities to talk about resilience in relation to this film because, for example, I know that one of the biggest things that strikes me about the movie, and one of the biggest criticisms, is that Sarah's a fairly unlikable character. Like, for a protagonist, she does an awful lot of whining. She creates half the problems that she experiences. She's very trusting of people that have proved not to be very trustworthy. She has a lot of arrogance. So I think a lot of the time we assimilate resilience with being zen or being stoic. But you can be resilient and kick and scream the whole way, right?
Yeah, she does. Our favorite line is, well, it's not fair. It's just not fair. And she still finds a way round that. But that's our immediate reaction. And I think as humans, you know, we're always going to have an emotive reaction first, and logic is always going to come after that. And it's about not dismissing what that reaction is. Think, you know, as you say, Brad, it's going to happen. You are going to have, if something surprises you or challenges you and it is negative, it's okay to feel that impact and feel that emotion, but it's what you do after that and what route you decide to take after that. But she does, she says that's not fair. I think Jared says, you know, you say that quite a lot.
It does.
But the film continues because you have to continue. So
it's true.
Can I ask Morgan? I don't know. One of the things I like about not just this podcast, but all of the things we do, the videos we create for clients, I kind of like being naive and learning about people in the moment. So I've never had a conversation with you and discovered your background particularly, and I'm fascinated. Did you study? Did you go and study for this? And what did you study at uni? If you went, just give me some context of your background.
So I realised quickly that I wanted to be in the world of learning and development, but I realised that there's no set degree really that is L&D. So the best possible way that I could think of was doing a HR degree first. So that was my undergrad degree. And I did a year in business. So I worked for a building society in an undergraduate kind of capacity. And I left university, thought, I could stay, or I'm going to need life experience because, you know, it is really difficult for people to come straight out of university and get a job and be deemed as credible. I went to Florida. I did hotel internship schemes. I went to Fiji. I volunteered there, and I did lots of different pieces of work, and I made sure that I gained lots of different transferable skills from different industries. I worked for the Marriott, Hilton, worked for Sky, worked for lots of different places, and probably a time frame of about 2 to 3 years, knitted lots together so that when I could come back into a consultant type space, I had experience and people couldn't challenge that as much, because my overall goal was to be a kind of life coach. And I thought, they're going to think, Morgan, you can't be a life coach. At the time I was like 21. You're just going to get laughed at. So I thought, well, I can, if I can immerse myself in lots of different environments and gain skills in those areas. And I realized that the integral part to any business was communication and adjusting your communication. And that was the core to everything. And no matter what industry you're in, if you have the ability to communicate and adapt you're going to thrive. So I thought, well, where's, the service world of America was probably the best to gain that insight because they're brilliant at communication in service. So I went to like the most prestigious golf club in Florida, with very challenging people who expected quite a lot. Yeah, it's an amalgamation of lots of different things that I've done to get to this place. So yeah, that's a whistle stop tour, Adam, and experience wise. So yeah, 2 degrees and a lot of travel. So there you go.
It's pretty impressive. I'm not going to lie. It's really, really impressive.
Thank you.
But I want to do a little tiny rewind because right at the start you said that you sort of knew early you wanted to get into L&D.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that because you had some sort of strategy from the beginning in terms of the first degree you picked. So
Yeah.
I just want to wind back before that a bit then. So where does that come from? Because I don't know how to say this politely, but of all the things that I think of people I've known growing up and the different industries people want to get into, different professions, it seems a slightly unusual one. So where does that come from, do you think? Where was that catalyst?
So I still do volunteer at a hospice, and it's the hospice that my mum is a head of people, I think. That's our official title, changes often, but yes, so I've always volunteered there, and I started to volunteer in the learning and development department honestly when I was about, I don't know, maybe 12 or something.
Wow.
And I was just kind of filing and doing lots of different bits, and I absolutely loved it. And I always remember asking, because my mum's roles spans across lots of different things, and I remember asking her, what is it that you do? And it was really difficult to explain to somebody young, I suppose, who'd only been told about the roles of, like in school, you're told about school, teachers and police or nurse, like you can go into these types of positions, but anything else, you didn't get information about. So she explained it to me that she taught adults life skills, and that was part of our role, and that was the easiest way to explain it to a 12-year-old at the time. I thought, that sounds really good, to actually impart knowledge onto people that want to be there, rather than a teacher, which is what I wanted to do way back when, because I was always good at coming up with different techniques in how to learn things. So if somebody was struggling in the class, I would come up with a rhyme, or I'd come up with a way in which to help them, the information to land. So I'd adjust lots of different things so that it would suit the person. You could argue that was the teacher's job, but it's...
Did you just say you were doing that while you were at school? Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
While you were a student?
Literally, wow. Yeah. And I'd also, if they put learning objectives on the board, and then I would know what they were going to do, or how they were going to take us there, and they'd get really frustrated that I'd worked it out already, because then I'd become a little bit disengaged, because I know what you're doing here. But then they realised that I could help or support, so they'd ask for me for input and things. But yeah, I used to adjust a lot when people were struggling or didn't really understand something. I would try to help in a way that I would create learning for them. And I think it comes as well, my ability to adjust things and adjust communication to land to different people. So my mum and sister are both autistic, and I'm not neurodivergent, but it has meant that I've had to think a lot about the way I communicate and recalibrate and pause a lot and think about how it's going to land, and help and support them with messages from other people as well, so that the tone comes across in the right way, and lots of things. So I think it's been ingrained in me because I've had to do it, and then I realized I was really great at it, and then it kind of pulled through. But yeah, it's come from a very young place, but it is interesting. I get really passionate about the types of roles that are introduced to children at school, and I think I don't know why you only go into kind of the top three or the big three.
I know we can almost certainly relate to that as well, because how far down the list does filmmaker come on that list of things you can do as a kid? It's just not there. And actually, I was trying to find a way back to Labyrinth, and I realised I suspect that's a Jim Henson experience as well, right? As a kid, how far down that list puppet maker or Imagineer, kind of just creator generally would be, just wouldn't be there. You've got 20 other jobs, accountant and banker, and even joining the army, medics, doctors, all that kind of stuff.
Definitely. One of the conversations that we've had, Morgan, offline is around the difference between robustness and resilience. Could you give us a definition between the two? And obviously tying that back into Labyrinth, we could look at that a little bit.
So definitely for resilience, it's the ability to face adversity and thrive in the face of that. That's what resilience is. I think robustness in the way that people use that is having strength when overwhelm occurs and being able to just do it, or being able to cope and deal with those types of overwhelm. And there is a line in that. Why is that overwhelm occurring? And you can't, as a business, just formulate a resilience session if you want people to be more robust and throw lots and lots of workload at them and just expect them to cope. Because even as, productivity is remote work is up by 13% because of we don't get those gaps in the day, being a remote worker myself, to chat at water stations. You're actually doing a lot more and your output is increased anyway. So to expect even more of somebody to give all of themselves, it's not the definition of what resilience is. And if you want somebody to be stronger, you need to define what strength is you're looking for within the business. For example, there's the spoons theory. I don't know if you have come across the spoon theory before in terms of resilience.
No,
but it's essentially it was coined by somebody who has a long-term illness, and they said that if you're given 10 spoons within the day, and each of us, so Brad, you'd have 10, Adam, you have 10, I have 10. To write an email, for example, might take me 1 spoon because I'm in a good place. It's fine. I'm kind of balanced for the day. There's 1 spoon. That's how much effort and energy it takes. As the day goes on, it's busier, overwhelm kind of starts to occur, and I need to write another email. That's now taken me 2 spoons. It's the same task, but the energy that I'm given to it is a lot different because of what's happened during the day. And sometimes people with chronic illness, people with long-term illnesses have to give different amounts of energy to the same type of task. It's the same when you are lacking in resilience. So it's the same when you don't feel as though you can cope with the day. The types of and amounts of energy that you have to give and apply to situations very different from the next person. So you can't do a one-size-fits-all approach to here's top tips and here's top skills. What you need to figure out is, why is it taking me 3 spoons, or whatever the analogy you want to use, to that particular task? What's happened in the day to get me to that place? And because you can end up with nothing, and you can end up actually working. That's where burnout occurs, is when you've got nothing left because you've given everything to those tasks and it wasn't energy you actually had. And I think creating space in the day, back-to-back meetings, nobody actually functions like that. You need to decompress. You can't switch your style of communication from one person to the next. Stakeholders, anybody that you're speaking to, it's just expected of you to just have unlimited spoons, I guess.
And I think it's basically a very, very polite and motivational way of saying, if you dump too much crap on people, eventually they'll break.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. Is
Yeah.
you can, everybody has the ability, like you're saying, to handle different things in different ways. And we don't have an umbrella expectation for people. that's where resilience becomes an issue, because we
Yeah.
look at organizationally robustness and go, well, if we're able to handle more, we can deal with more. That's not how things
No.
work. It's like the scene in the movie where, I don't know if you remember this scene, but because it's one of my favorite quotes, when Hoggle's helping Sarah through some bits, and
Yeah.
and Jareth doesn't want him to help. He kind of wants her to be hindered. And they get to this corridor, and he pops out, and Jareth pops out of nowhere, and he's like, "What are you up to?" And Hogwarts says, "Nothing." He goes, "Nothing, nothing, tra la la." And then he sort of says, like, "If you're doing nothing, you can handle this." And then he
Yeah.
throws that orb down the tunnel, and then, as
Yeah.
if her life hasn't been difficult enough, suddenly there's this huge ball that's got all the blades that's coming towards him, and she has this whole new thing to deal with. And sometimes it can feel like that in an organisation where
Yeah.
your manager's like, "You finished your work, tra la la. Here you go."
Yeah.
There's more things to
Here's
deal
more.
with. And you go,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Like,
This is
no, like as
insane.
soon as you've got the flow, and you use that in Lucozade, don't you? You're in the flow, but you feel it in work when you think, yeah, I'm in a, I guess I'm finding some challenges, but they're motivating me, and there's the pressure versus performance. You do have to have a bit of pressure to perform at your best. You can't have nothing, because you'd just be bored and performance would go down. But yeah, all of those things that are thrown at you. And I think the something that I try to educate leaders and businesses on is that if you are that person, or you notice that people are in their kind of flourishing zone and they're doing brilliantly, there is a tendency to hand them everything, because they're the safe pair of hands and it's going to get done. And that person is doing brilliantly because they've managed everything to be able to do that. And then the people who aren't doing so great, you can think, I'll just not give them as much, because they don't do it brilliantly anyway. And I remember me and my friend, so we're both consultants, and she said, "Morgan, I just want to know, like, how do you get to be a coaster? Because I want to be able to do it. I just can't." And it's dead funny, because you think, I'm doing so well. Why is this happening? And why do I feel as though I've got so much to do? And it is the tendency to give people who are doing brilliantly and have been able to deal with setbacks more and more, and then they become disengaged in themselves.
They've used all their spoons.
They've used all the spoons, exactly.
So when it comes to resilience as a useful tool, something that you can say, I have resilience in my toolkit of capabilities. We're all born with an innate resilience to do certain things, but when you're trying to build resilience towards things that you don't necessarily normally have. So an example of that might be, I don't know, you call me out on this, but an example of that might be somebody who has an inability to deal with people in a confrontational environment. So their ability to be more resilient would mean that they are less confrontational, and that they are able to handle more confrontation if they themselves are not leading that conversation in that way. Would that be an example of a resilience skill that someone could build, or is that too obscure as an analogy?
No, there are definite, they talk about kind of 6 skill sets for resilience. They're titled the domains of resilience. And one of them is being able to emotionally regulate. And part of that comes from communication. So, having a difficult conversation, or having something where conflict arises, and being able to remain balanced and balance your courage to speak up, but your consideration for other people. And that's your sweet spot for assertiveness, and being able to make sure that you get something out of the conversation, but it's not impacting you in a way that's going to alter your behavior to a point where you think, I'm not responding here, I'm actually just reacting, and my emotions are driving me. So that is something. Conflict is not bad, it's not negative, it's just difference. It's what happens after that. So how do you respond? How do you build that relationship in a way so that the person feels heard, even though it was different to something you suggested? But conflict in itself is not negative, shouldn't be avoided. So I'm working on, the phrasing that you can use to make sure that you've got a conducive environment to clashing ideas, because you should have it. But yeah, people sometimes can take it personally that, oh, my idea didn't work, or was rubbish, or shot down.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective, because I think, especially in the film industry, you have to take critiques all the time. And some of them feel very personal, because especially if you've put a part of yourself out there
Yeah.
and that represents you, and someone says, I don't like that, or that should be different. And you kind
Yeah.
of go, well, hang on, you're not saying that thing should be different. You're saying that I should be different.
Yeah.
But they're not saying that. They're
No.
saying that specific thing, I don't like the way that makes me feel, or I don't like the way
Yeah.
that looks, or they're not critiquing you as an individual. And I think having the ability to separate those two things out is integral, really.
Yeah, completely. And I know even Labyrinth didn't make what it was meant to make. That's the real core difference, is that there's a huge difference between reaction and response. And resilient people respond almost every time. It doesn't mean that they don't experience reactions. They do first. It's just they can usually get to a response mode quicker.
Morgan's just making me think and rethink about some of my actions of recent days and weeks, and thinking, maybe I reacted and I should have paused and thought and responded. So, some interesting personal insight for me.
There's a few instances where Sarah finds herself in positions where her response is integral to her success. So there's that scene quite near the end of the movie, which terrifies me to this day, and I'm sure is the root cause for my fear of Venetian masks. That and Eyes Wide Shut. But there's that scene when she eats the poisoned apple, and then she goes into that weird fugue state, and everyone's at a party, and she's being wooed into a sense of security and comfort, and then realizes, oh, this is a trap, and then suddenly has to escape the trap to carry on her journey. And I think there's something in there as well sometimes around, we're not always seeing the problem that's presented in front of us, and we don't see the need for resilience in that moment to go, oh, I need to deal with this problem, I need to respond, like you're saying. So there's it's a strange one, isn't it? Because response to a situation isn't always, like you're saying, Adam, isn't always this big personal emotional explosion. Sometimes it could be something completely different.
Yeah, and that's it'll always happen first. Anybody, you cannot simultaneously be emotional and logical at the exact same time. When you think about, and this is why resilience is such a transferable skill into other types of skills. So if you have high emotional intelligence, you're very highly likely to also have a high resilience point, because of that ability to assess the emotion that you're feeling, pinpoint it, and then choose your response from there. And and recognize the emotion in others as well. So you're going to adjust your communication standpoint based on what you've seen from somebody else, and not just go in with, well, this is what I want to achieve, and this is the type of communication that I'm using. A lot of the training courses I love to include is the idea of these justification statements, when people use them and go, that's just me, that's who I am, that's what I do, sorry, takers or leavers, this is how I behave. It's just not enough. And resilient people won't do that, because they know that they have to be adaptive to different environments, different people, the different emotions that are there. But yeah, you're not born with a certain, you can be born with a type of resilience, but all of those things need to be worked on, and it's not a fixed skill set at all. You can absolutely improve your resilience.
What's your advice for an organisation, big or small, who maybe listen to this and start realising actually there's some work we need to do in this space, but we don't know where to begin, we don't know how simple, how big, how large we make it, where do we go, what kind of program do we build? But just give me a sense. What's your advice? How do people start to make sense of this, and how do you help them do that as well?
I think the first part is almost a temperature check into what situations would I, as a business leader, what situations would I like my people to feel more resilient in and be more resilient in? And then you almost have to match up what they want to be more resilient in, because if it's just from one angle, you're not going to get that full picture. So you need to do that needs analysis into what's the sorts of things that I need as an individual contributor role, or whatever role that you hold. And then what are the types of situations that are coming up where we're finding those skill sets aren't there, and almost match the two to be able to create something, or create a solution where, you're addressing those two angles of it. I think we've realized that the world that we're living in is uncertain. It's non-linear. It's almost like playing a game where the rules are changing constantly. I heard that the other day and I loved it, because it is like that. And that's why people need to be resilient, because you don't know what's coming around the corner. A business's positioning of even how important those things are and their belief in it as well. Invest research into that and understanding how, in an unpredictable world, the best thing that you can do is invest in durable skill sets such as resilience. So I'd say, yeah, kind of making sure you do that temperature check and also position those types of skill sets in the most important way, because they are the most important things to people.
And Morgan's too modest to say, go talk to Morgan as well. That's the other bit of advice. If you're thinking about this, if there's things you're hearing that sound like they could be useful to the organisation, I guess, Morgan, it all starts with a chat, right? It all starts with just that discovery together and having someone with your experience and your kind of knowledge to just sense check together and start to feel out what's right for any individual organisation.
In fact, I think, Morgan, you've got a course to plug, right?
I do have.
Do we have a plug? It's our first ever plug on the
plug.
Wow,
plug.
Let's do it.
Should we get a plug? Should we have a plug song? Like some sort
no,
of thing?
We should be more subtle. We shouldn't really tell people it's a plug. We should let it feel more organic.
But this is not a plug, but if you have anything to say, please say it now, Morgan.
Yes. So there will be there's a session which will feature all of the different skills and things that you'll get when you come on a virtual resilience session that we formulate in accordance to, I guess, the world of 2024 and the types of things that are needed from individuals to work in the climate that we're in, and this kind of hybrid role that we're in as well. So we've got lots and lots kind of jam-packed within a virtual session for resilience. So it's about a 90-minute session full of different activities and full of my own, psychology and understanding why this is important, understanding human behavior. And I think that's why this is different than some of the other content that you've seen on resilience, is that it is paired with, this is how your brain is going to work. So let's combat and let's help it. And it's highly, highly practical, because I do not deliver in any other way than the session is always created for the person that's attending it.
And this is a free taster session that you're offering, and people can find out more on the website on trekinternational.com, and I think we're also posting some stuff on LinkedIn and some of our social. Yeah. Okay.
Can I sign up to that? Is that allowed? Am I allowed to be part? Like, I need to hear more. I need to learn more.
Of course.
I think they call that a plant. I think that's the terminology that people use. Yeah. So one final question. I think it'd be nice to finish up talking about Labyrinth, because why not? And it relates to the end of the movie, so it's a nice way to tie it together. Sort of I guess the general sense by the end of the film is that Sarah's got a community. She's got Ludo, the big kind of, don't know what he is. He's like a horned bear monster that can make stones appear out of a swamp. I don't know what he is.
Yeah. Did you see that Ludo and met Princess Diana? Like, there's a photo of them together.
Really? That's so obscure. So you've got Ludo. You've got Didymus with Ambrosius, his little dog, and we've got Hoggle and Sarah by the end, and they've worked as a team. They've all kind of used their respective areas of resilience to kind of succeed, and then Sarah's had to face the final task on her own and done that. And then at the end of the movie, you feel like everyone's done and they're all going their separate ways, but then no, everyone's there. They're all friends. They're all hiding in a room. They all party and big celebration at the end. Obviously, soundtrack to the beautiful Bowie songs. So where I'm going with this is, well, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this, but in terms of resilience, there is a difference, but a similarity between individual resilience and team resilience. I know we can't get too deep into that, but that's something I know that you can speak to as well. So do you have any kind of thoughts on that before we go?
Yeah, so one of the things we included in the session, and it's one of the domains of resilience, is collaboration. And whenever we look at it, I always have to caveat the description because people go, "Oh, it's your ability to communicate." And it's not in that sense. Yes, that's important in any world, but for this, it's about leaning on your support network and knowing that you don't have to face everything alone. Even just perception management. So checking in on, actually, I'm not sure how to feel about this type of situation. What do you think? Not having to deal with everything by yourself and knowing you have a support network within your team to lean on. And there are so many different skill sets within your team as well. So businesses who focus on strength, I think it's the 38% more productive than those who focus on weakness. So it's all about thinking about, well, what is my team brilliant at? I might personally be brilliant at adaptive communication, but because I feel such strong emotions, that's difficult sometimes for me to regulate. But I know that somebody else in the team has that. So I might come to them with a situation and go, how would you approach this? How would you cope with this? And it's okay that I'm not ever going to be amazing, brilliant as them at that part. Yes, I can increase it, but it's knowing who to go to. And again, it's that connect piece. Spend the time with the person first. Make sure that you've done that. Again, on a side note, like I'll never put "hope you well" on an email because I'm like, I've not asked them. I've just assumed it just doesn't sit with me. I need to make sure that, yeah, I'm building relationships so that when those situations do arise, I have the best possible connection with that person so that it's not just I need you for something. But yeah, that's my advice on collaboration, team, and the party at the end because it's
Nice.
hilarious.
So what we're saying there is stronger individuals lead to stronger
Yeah,
communication, leads to stronger collaboration, and by focusing on the strengths of individuals within a team, you get a stronger team
yeah,
through that. And there's obviously, like you said, there's that empathy piece of let's not ask rhetorical questions like "I hope you're
yeah,
well." It's not
yeah.
even a question; it's a statement. How are you
Mhm.
doing today? How is things? How is this? You know, that building that trust and
Yeah,
communication with people leads to those deeper connections, which means you're able to handle more and respond better to situations as they arise.
absolutely. Yeah, invest in connecting, and then your collaboration will increase because that's the part that it is difficult for remote workers. They do feel as though every message has to have a higher impact than it would in an office setting because it's recorded and it's
Mm.
documented and it just feels a little bit more urgent. And I think we have the control to be able to break some of that a little bit and actually I'd encourage it.
No, I love it. I love the revolutionary attitude as well. Like, I'm all for it. Well, Morgan, thank you so much for your time today, for your insane level of knowledge around resilience and what that can mean for people. And I know we've barely scratched the surface of it. So I do, hope that those listening who feel that they could benefit from that, which we all could, take the time to come to your workshops and reach out to you as an individual.
Absolutely.
With that being said, I'm now going to ask you to sing the David Bowie song, Power of the Babe. No, I'm joking.
Sorry. What's it? Do you know the rhyme? What's the rhyme? You remind me, babe. What babe? The babe of the power. What power? The power of voodoo. Who do you do? What? Mammy of the babe. Do you know?
There you go. I got you to do it. Fantastic. And actually, fun fact that David Bowie stole the cadence of that rhyme from
Yeah.
an old Gene Kelly film, and it was I think it was Gene Kelly. Shirley Temple singing. She's like, "You remind me of the man with the power," and I can't remember the name of the film,
Oh,
but yeah. So anyway, we're not gonna hold that against the man. He's a genius.
no, no. The best things are curated anyway.
Yeah, exactly right. They say the best artists still. It's the truth.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that gorgeous rendition of the song to sing us out. It's been wonderful having you, Morgan, and I wish you all the
Thank you.
best with the course.
Thanks, Morgan.
Thank you so much.
So it's always like not felt awkward, the wrong word, but there is that really valid question when we do these podcasts of, are we promoting our services? Should we be promoting our services, talking about what we can offer? And we've never really done it. You know, I know we sort of loosely talk about some of the stuff that we do, certainly creatively, in some of the video production and design and podcasts and things. But boy, just listening to Morgan speak, I feel really proud actually of what On Track does in that space, and actually the difference it can make to employees in an organisation. And I could really just start to connect that dot for the first time, I guess, of why as a head of learning or something, or a leader in a business, you might need On Track to come in, you know, as an expert from one side, just bring in that knowledge, and bring Morgan in, you know, boy, to get Morgan in to come and look at your organisation and help build and develop a resilience program, just, I don't know, makes so much sense to me. For the first time I'm looking at it again, I get it. I can see how that expertise would be invaluable. You can't cheat that. You can't, I don't think you can have your own ideas about resilience, but you can't cheat the way she thinks about and approaches and the experiences she's got to build that picture of what resilience means and how to develop it in your organization.
Yeah, certainly. And I think one of the other things as well is, this isn't, I don't know how relevant this is as a statement, but I think it is, because Morgan's young. So she's, and I say young, like she's younger than us, and we're youthful, man. Like we're super young. We're really cool and young and hip, but she's younger than us. So she brings a lot of enthusiasm and energy, and she's not jaded in any way, shape or form. Like it's boundless. And I think that I think organizations, especially those that are stuck in the mire, need that. They need someone who's not just coming in and running the numbers and just kind of reeling off the information. It's somebody who comes in and cares. Like she said, she sounds like a little bit like a Matilda at school, you know, the kid in this class that's bringing a lot of energy and intelligence and things. And she's obviously had that from year dot. So to have all that knowledge and expertise and experience is kind of like the golden egg, right? You can't ask for more.
Yeah. It's so funny you bring it up, and I was absolutely determined today not to mention Morgan's age, because I just felt it was unfair. I'm like, she must face that question all the time, because she does, to my experience, she seems on the younger end. If I'm thinking of L&D professionals, I've got a vision in my mind, and she's on the very young end of that. So I was kind of determined, I'm not going to ask about it. I'm not going to ask, because I don't think it's fair to focus on that. But you're right. One, she's incredibly credible. Like there's no doubt in my mind that anyone would be in front of Morgan and feel that she wasn't incapable of delivering what was needed. Absolutely not. And what a joyous bonus. Like you said, you're bringing that youthful energy and perspective, and not a jaded 40-year kind of background or career in the corporate world. And I hate myself for saying that, because it shouldn't be about age.
No, age doesn't denote level of excitement, and it's not even one of those "the lady doth protest too much" things of no, we mean this. It's like genuinely mean it. And even if that just comes down to the superficial fact that she chose Labyrinth, which puts her at the top percentile of people that we've ever had on the show for film choices. That enough.
I can't believe you just said that out loud to all our previous guests. He doesn't mean that. We love you all
listen,
equally.
I'm picking most of the movies, so I'm only judging
That's
myself.
True. That is true, actually. Yeah, that is
true. And like Jackie didn't get to pick, and Laura had speed thrust upon her by your good self.
You're right.
So
this is the first person who's ever picked a movie, is it?
Ever really picked the movie. A lot of the time they're guided by me. Little behind the scenes secret there. But yeah, what a great choice of film. Cracking choice.
We need a score out of 5 for Labyrinth. Where are you placing it?
Didn't we? We didn't do, I mean, you know what? There's 2 things we didn't do.
Didn't do what?
I didn't get Morgan to rate the film. But
that's like,
I know she likes it. We know this.
We can ask her after. I don't think anyone's looking for the league table online, but if they are, we'll get Morgan's rating, and we'll add it to the table and put it in the show notes.
There was that, and there's also this other thing that I was going to talk to you about, and we never got round to it, and we may pick this up next episode. We'll see. But it was the film review haiku. And the idea was I was trying to challenge myself to review a film of the week in every episode and do it in a haiku. And that was just going to be like a little fun thing that we do at the end of every episode. We won't do it this one because we haven't had a chance to see whether or not that's worth exploring.
Well, it's also a 2-hour podcast that you've got to make 1 hour long. So good luck fitting. I know a haiku's short, but it is just another bit of content to try and cram in somewhere.
More content to cram in. Anyway, in terms
we should
of
do an extended edition, by the way. There should be 2 episodes of this podcast. It should be the standard 1 hour one and then an extended edition.
Which ties back into the WrestleMania conversation at the beginning.
Yes, it
right?
does.
It does.
How
see?
good are we? Look
There
at
we
that.
go. And you'll go and watch Labyrinth this week, like you watched Speed last week.
I don't know if I'll watch it. I mean, I knew when I agreed to watch Speed, it was on the basis that I had some confidence that I could stomach it. I just don't know if Labyrinth. I've seen bits and pieces of Dark Crystal, which is often compared, and it's not for me.
Very different. I think they're very different. I think Dark Crystal gets compared to. It just gets compared because it's a similar look and feel of. It's a different same period of Henson, but it's like comparing the Muppets to Sesame Street. They're completely different. Completely different. And also, like I say,
I'm going to keep myself free for whatever the next movie is because I can't watch all of them, and I've watched Speed. I haven't got really time for Labyrinth, and then we'll see what next week brings.
I know what next week is, but I'm not going to tell you yet. I'm going to keep it as a surprise.
Okay. So last season, you asked me to watch them in advance, and I didn't. Maybe this season, ask me to watch them after we've talked about them, and that will
hindsight. You can test the theories of the things we talk about after the fact.
Yeah, and see how well you've sold the film to make me go and watch it.
Well, I used Terry Jones to sell this one. I mean, come on, like I don't know about you, but he's like possibly my favourite Python. So
listen, I'm sure I've got work to do. Let's go get back to work on some important client projects.
All right, okay then. I'll love you and leave you, and I'll see you later.
Till next time.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Get that Euro Millions feeling with this Friday's £165 million Euro Millions mega jackpot. Euro Millions from the National Lottery.